As far as Hamas and its so-called ceasefires, they're violating their own ceasefires. It's come to the level of absurdity, right?
Well, actually, the question is not just Hamas itself. There are several resistance groups in Gaza, but Mr. Netanyahu loves to lump everybody under Hamas, accuse Hamas of everything, including killing its own people and so on.
As a religious holiday celebration is about to start, the latest attempt at a truce in the Gaza Strip seems to be getting little traction. As Israel and Hamas wrangle over terms, international diplomats try to figure out a path to a sustainable ceasefire. We'll have live Fox team coverage of the very latest. Plus, Jerusalem Mayor Nir Birkat joins us live. And Life on the Border, a documentary film producer says you're not even getting half the real story. He talks to Border Patrol agents on the front lines of the immigration crisis about what is really happening when illegal immigrants cross the border. Dennis Michael Lynch joins us live. And it was the scandal that shook the Department of Veterans Affairs to its core. Our veterans dying while waiting for appointments and care at VA facilities. Lawmakers vowed to take swift action. So why hasn't that happened? We will talk to Senator Johnny Isakson of the Veterans Affairs Committee. I'm Shannon Breen. America's News Headquarters live from the nation's capital starts right now. And we begin with the Fox News alert. It has been 20 days since Israel and Hamas began fighting. In the meantime, death tolls have mounted and humanitarian ceasefires have been short-lived. Any agreements quickly broken up by gunfire and rockets. The latest attempt at a 24-hour ceasefire has failed. To sort it all out, we have Fox team coverage. John Huddy is at the Gaza border with the very latest on the ground. But we begin with Steve Centani, who has reaction from newsmakers here in Washington. Hi, Steve.
Hi, Shannon. Yeah, with diplomatic efforts continuing and a less than total ceasefire in place, both sides in the bitter Israeli-Palestinian conflict continue a war of words on the Sunday talk shows. As the death toll mounts on both sides, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu acknowledged today world opinion may be shifting away from his nation as more Palestinian civilians are killed. More than 1,000 Palestinians have lost their lives, mostly civilians, while fewer than 50 Israelis, mostly soldiers, have been killed. But the Prime Minister repeated his claim that Israel is trying to avoid such casualties while the Palestinians use civilians as human shields. And he said Israel won't agree to just any terms for a ceasefire.
So Israel is not obliged and is not going to let a terrorist organization determine when it's convenient for them to fire at our cities, at our people, and when it's not, when they can restock. We'll take the necessary action to protect our people, including, by the way, continue to dismantle the tunnels. That's my policy.
Secretary of State John Kerry back in the U.S. after a trip to the Middle East and Europe trying to secure a lasting ceasefire. Each side remains far apart on terms for a final deal. Israel has asked that Gaza be demilitarized, and Hamas has demanded that a crippling blockade of Gaza be lifted.
Israel wanted to keep Gaza totally separate from the rest of the Palestinian territory because all this aggression is totally unjustified. And I was very shocked that the Prime Minister was speaking about avoiding civilians and so on. 80% of those who have been killed in Gaza are civilians.
So that's how things look from Washington. Now let's go to the Gaza border for a live report from my colleague John Huddy. John.
Well, Steve, there is no ceasefire. Instead, we're hearing a tremendous amount of machine gun and artillery fire at this point, and that's been really the case throughout the day. We've seen airstrikes, we've heard airstrikes, explosions, and also rockets being fired from Gaza at Israel. This, of course, as the military offensive continued today, the primary goal at this point for Israeli forces to root out and destroy the infrastructure and network of Hamas militant attack tunnels. These tunnels, several of which have stretched into Israel, have been used by Hamas militants to attack and in several cases kill Israeli soldiers, and also to transport and store rockets that have been fired at Israel. Now, so far, the latest numbers, 32 of these tunnels have been found. About half have been destroyed. And Israel has maintained and stipulated that even with a ceasefire, it would continue the offensive and the campaign to destroy these tunnels. Now, at this point, Israel's security cabinet has been meeting for the past several hours discussing what to do next if there isn't a ceasefire. And one of the proposals is to possibly expand the military operation, expand the military offensive to push even deeper into the Gaza Strip. So again, no ceasefire, no proposal at this point, though Israel has said it'd be willing to match calm for calm, and if Hamas ceases fire, it'd be willing to cease fire as well. But at this point, Shannon, we're hearing a tremendous amount of machine gun and artillery fire in the distance. Shannon?
All right, John, thank you very much. So how is the security situation in Gaza affecting Israel's largest city? Jerusalem Mayor Nir Birkat joins us now live. Mayor, thank you so much for your time today. Can you give us the latest there from Jerusalem?
Well, in Jerusalem, we view what's happening in the south of Israel, and we understand that Israel will never accept going back to where we were before this war. We can never accept the fact that militants, terrorists, can fire indiscriminate rockets or use tunnels to create havoc and terror. These are similar people to the ones that committed the crime in September 11 in New York. And they don't want to negotiate ceasefire. They want to use every opportunity to hit Israel. Therefore, here in Jerusalem and in the rest of the country, we're backing up our national government, the Prime Minister, the Israeli army. We don't want and we will not return to where we were before this war.
I want to read you something from a senior Palestinian official and give you a chance to respond. This is from Mohammed Shatea. He says people under siege will react to defend themselves. He says that's what's happening in Gaza, and that the only answer is for Israel to accommodate Palestinian demands for ending occupation and for the establishment of an independent Palestinian state.
Well, there's no excuse for terror. The terrorists that committed the September 11 crime, there's no excuse in the world. There's no excuse for shooting indiscriminate rockets. You want to chat with us, you want to speak, lay down your weapon, come and speak. If you want to hit us, well, we'll hunt you first. We will make sure that we have the best defense mechanism in the world, and we will target only the militants, only the terrorists as much as we can. So, as you see in the numbers, the army protects Israel. The Hamas, the residents, protect the missiles. We will not allow that, and we will never return to where we were. It's very, very clear. It's not about a ceasefire. It's about the terms after this round of violence that we will never accept to get back to where we were before this round.
What would be helpful for you in terms of hearing from Palestinian officials? What do you need to hear them step up and say? Because, of course, just months ago, there was this sort of renegotiation and mending some very fractured fences with Hamas, and that obviously gives great rise to concern for you being in that region and all of those who are in Israel in a very, quote, tough neighborhood.
Look, let me demonstrate it for you in American standards. Assuming that you had 2,500 rockets fired at San Diego from Mexico, God forbid, if you were at not the best relationships, God forbid, with Mexico, what would America do to Mexico, in this case, for the analogy, if they use indiscriminate rockets at San Diego, and you know you're talking about a bunch of people, radical Islamists, that are not interested in peace? What kind of how would you deal with them? Would you go and sit down at the table and have a piece of paper that says ceasefire? The terms are very meaningful. No other person in the world, no other country, you do exactly the same as we would do. Any rational country, democratic country, would do exactly the same as Israel. And make it very, very clear. And if you have to use our way, our army, to stop them, we will do that. It's very, very clear. And so you have to understand, we're not talking about peaceful people that want to sit down and do peace. If they do, they'll find Israel as a great, great partner. We've done that with Egypt. We've done that with Jordan. We're open to do that with the Palestinians. We know we're peace-seeking people. But we also know how to fight. And if you challenge us, we will know how to fight and win this battle.
Mayor, we thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you.